Hi, welcome to Bar Cart Bookshelf, a video series about books and the drinks they inspire. My name is Elias, and today we're talking about A Restless Truth by Freya Marske. A Restless Truth is the second book in the Last Binding trilogy, which began last year with A Marvellous Light, one of my favorite books of 2021, and so Restless Truth was one of my most anticipated titles this year, and one that I knew I always wanted to cover, and one that I was very excited to read, and one that satisfied me in the best possible way. It is a different book from the first book. It is a fantasy romance, as Marvellous Light was, but with a fresh new couple. While we continue the story and the overarching magical plot of book one, we get the whole fresh new falling in love, falling into a romantic partnership and companionship with a new couple here than we had in book one with Robin Blythe and Edwin Corsi. In A Marvellous Light, it is now Maud Blythe, Robin's younger sister, who has set off on a grand adventure and is traveling on an international steamliner from New York City all the way back to merry old England. And it's there that she meets the rakish heiress turned actress Violet Debenham, and finds herself enmeshed in a murder mystery with really mouthy ghosts and a naughty parrot and a really phenomenal cast of characters. And so it's just a very lovely, bubbly kind of fantasy romance that I think is, for me at least, a perfect way to close out my reading year here, and a nice way also to think about warmer days as we here in the Northern Hemisphere head into the deeper, darker bits of winter. So, A Marvellous Light, as I said, fantasy romance set on an ocean liner, solving a murder mystery, just as hot and spicy, and really well done sexuality and queer sexuality as we saw in book one, A Marvellous Light. Some really fantastic side characters who not only fill out the plot here for book two, but also set up our what looks like our main couple for book three, coming next year in 2024. And so, of course, we needed to have another drink inspired by the Last Binding series. So without any further ado, why don't we turn to today's drink. This is the HMS Lyric, inspired by A Restless Truth, taken from the name of the ocean liner that our action is set on, and the sort of glamorous environs of that. We're going to start with our base spirit. This is 1.5 ounces of Old Tom style gin. It's an older style of gin, a little bit softer, a little bit sweeter. Maud is definitely something of a softer and sweeter protagonist than Edwin or Robin, with her own sassy spunk as she's discovering things about the world, deliciously vivacious young woman who's very excited to be off on her own adventure, and one that's handled, I think, really marvelously. So we've got our 1.5 ounces of that Old Tom gin, nice for the historical portion of the novel as well. Now we'll get our modifiers going. I'm going to start with our sour with 3/4 ounce. Ha ha ha. My limes were just perfect. 3/4 ounce of lime juice. There we go. They drink a little more and enjoy a little more lemon in the book than they do lime, but I really like the pairing of lime and gin, and with those wonderful yellow greens of the book cover there. Lime just feels right. And when you're at sea, you want a lime. That's a classic oceanic citrus right there. All right. So we've got our gin and our lime juice here for our HMS Lyric, but we've got to sweeten things up a little bit. So we're going to start with our primary sweetener, which is our homemade raspberry liqueur. You can use commercial raspberry liqueur as well if that's easier to find, but I really like the freshness of making my own. And we're going to get 1/2 ounce of that raspberry liqueur. It's a really lovely scene with some raspberries in the book that just really sold it. And, of course, with the murder, you need a little something red in there. So 1/2 ounce of that. Then, as I said, the love interest, the other main character, Violet Debenham, is named Violet. And so we've got a somewhat familiar floral friend, one that we've used for sapphic books in the past, as we did with Harrow the Ninth earlier this year. So we're going to get our creme de violette, that wonderful floral liqueur that's going to bring the smell of violets and a bit of that floral flavor into our cocktail. A little goes a long way with this, so we want just 1/4 ounce in there. And then to finish things off, because so many of our ingredients, including our sweeteners, are alcoholic and are going to be a little bit sharper, a little bit thinner, to bring some texture, to bring a bit of balance, we want a bar spoon of some simple syrup. So equal parts sugar and water, and that's sort of functioning as a texturing element. It's going to bring a bit more body to our cocktail. So just a little, another little hint of sweetness to balance out the sharpness of the gin, of the lime, of the alcohol that's used in preparing our sweeteners, our liqueurs here, and a bit of texture as well. Then we're going to get our ice down in there. They really are just such delightful books, and I am so eagerly awaiting book 3 next year. That's the peril of reading books as they come out. Then you've got to have a long wait for the continuing volumes, but it's worth it. There we go. Shake it up, wake it up. Wonderful. Let that drip on down. And get our handy dandy Hawthorne strainer. Hawthorne strainer, another appropriate for the last binding series kind of tool. We're going to strain that on in there. You can see it's a lovely sort of dusky purple violet, and very refreshing, not quite springy, but really nice in both summer weather and when you're dreaming of summer weather over the Atlantic on an ocean liner at the turn of the 20th century. The drink is the HMS Lyric. It is inspired by A Restless Truth by Freya Marske. A Restless Truth is available now, and oh, what a fun romp it is. It's a romp. I got a link to snag the book down below, as well as to the Boston Shaker, where we get all of our tools and ingredients, to various types of social media, including Twitter and Instagram, where there's always a written version of today's recipe. Please like, share, subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts about favorite scenes in A Restless Truth if you've already had a chance to read it. Try the drink. Let me know what you think. Tune in next week for our final video of the year with another speculative romance, one that I'm really excited to be reading and be covering. And until next time, cheers.